I love it.
Yeah.
This question is open to anyone on the panel, and I actually think it would be maybe good for everyone to answer it because I think it's different for every person. What is the hardest part of your job? And let's just work our way down the line.
Honestly, just getting up at 2 in the morning.
What time do you have to wake up, 2 in the morning?
I get up at 2. And
2:10.
2:10. So I think that's it. And once I think I'll speak. I won't speak for you totally here, but just.
Oh, you go ahead. You've done it before.
Well, Steve feels like this.
Just like a married couple.
He feels really crabby. When we first come in, we're all just like, oh, But within 20 minutes, get a cup of coffee in you, and you start working on your stories. I come alive, and I realize how much, not to be a cheese ball here, how much I really love doing this because I wouldn't keep getting up for 13 years at 2 in the morning if I didn't. So.
That's so true. You can't fake it. You can't get up in the middle of the night unless you're having at least a fair amount of fun, and we do. So no day is boring, so I guess we're kind of blessed.
I really appreciate what they do because it is hard. You get yourself on a schedule like that. I used to work mornings and then I worked late at night, and it just kind of tears at your life because your sleep schedule's off, everything else is off. You get the feeling you can't go out to dinner with anyone. You can't see your friends because you've got to stick to this schedule.
My 9-year-old stays up later than I do.
Does he really? I think the hardest thing is not having enough time to do the job the way you'd like to do it, because you sit down and you prep for 10 or 15 topics a day, and you can never be prepared enough, and somebody's always sure to ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. So God bless the internet, and thank you, Al Gore. Danny?
I'd have to agree with Lars. I think it's time, because he must stop by my desk 5 or 6 times a day. Did you hear the interview? I've got a great story for you. I'm like, well, I didn't catch the whole thing, Lars. He's on for 6 hours a day, which, by the way, he is probably, in the nearly 30 years that I've been doing this, the hardest, or certainly one of the hardest, no, the hardest working guy I run into. He's in there at 6:30 or 7 in the morning. He's there until 6 o'clock at night. Like Rebecca said, when he was on vacation, I think you were skiing over the winter, and you were on vacation, and I got a text of him making a snow angel. I'm like, why are you sending me this? You're on vacation. But it really is. There's so much information today. It's just unbelievable. And our job has become so much easier in so many ways because we have access, and we can edit everything on it used to be I had a razor blade and a marker and would cut things up on tape, and now you just do it on the computer. But the fact that there's so much out there and so many people are connected that you're trying to find a way to find a new angle for that story. You can get all the news you need on your cell phones right now, and from listening to us, of course. But you need that connection, and hopefully that's what we're working on developing. We're finding a way to tell a story that's maybe a little bit different than you might find in another medium.
Hey, Stephanie, let me throw something in about what these people do. I hope you realize how hard it is in some ways. It's very enjoyable work, but it used to be that it was hard to gather. Now it's like standing under a waterfall of information. It really is, and you've got a bucket or a glass, and that's all. And they have to make the qualitative choices. What can I tell people about? How many words do I do with it? I've got a mile of tape or a mile of interview. What's the most important part of this? And all of those decisions benefit from the fact that this team has decades of experience. So it means you can sort through a 15-minute speech and say, that's the important part that's significant to the people that I'm doing this for, that I'm serving through what you do. The FCC expects radio stations to serve the public. It sounds easy, and we want to make it sound fun. It is fun. But making those qualitative decisions, deciding that soundbite should be cut here because you only have so much time, and if I spend 15 seconds extra on this one, then that's 15 seconds less for this other story. Those are tough decisions, and if you sat and counted every discrete decision made by the news people sitting up here, it would probably add up to thousands per day of discrete decisions. Do I include this? Do I exclude that? How much do I do? It's an amazing quantity of decisions that are made, and they're all important because if they make the wrong decision or a poor decision, you get less. And the reason that you folks have made this station #1 in the market is because these people up here have been able to make the right decisions more often than the wrong ones, and give you the news in a way that you're happy with. And I just can't say enough good things about the people I get a chance. I'm very blessed to work with Steve and Rebecca and Dan, even though I give them a hard time, and Lacey and Mike and Clyde.
Just to add one thing, and I hope you'll all agree. Often we agonize over whether or not this particular story should go on. Believe me, it's not like it's thrown on. There's a lot of almost tears involved in this, and sometimes we tend to overthink it, but that's just the way it works.
The hardest part of my job is scratch. It's the idea that a lot of my stories I can't find on the Associated Press or the United Press or Reuters, or I can't find them. I have to go from what I know. I have to go from my gut. I have to write every day. And the biggest problem I have is what I call armchair skeptics and how terminologies have been perverted in my field. A UFO is an unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean that aliens are piloting it. It just means it's up there and no one knows what the hell it is. So when people come up to me and they say, "Do you believe in UFOs?" I say, well, what does that mean? Believing. I see things in the sky that I don't know what they are, and they're unidentified. If you're asking me if I believe aliens pilot them, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've seen some strange stuff, but I don't know. And then, of course, skepticism, which, of course, is having an open mind and not making up your mind. But most skeptics believe that they make up their mind, and it's always in contrary to what I talk about. And there are armchair skeptics that will come after you, and they will wish horrible things on you because of what you talk about. And that's the hardest part of my job, is that I tell people that I'm being honest. I'm honestly looking at a story that I'm covering. I'm honestly giving you what I feel, and I'm looking at it from a Fortean perspective. I always say that things can change in a New York minute. Beliefs change like shirts. The way you look at God, the way you look at spirituality, the way you look at the aliens, the way you look at whatever, all changes with time. I mean, we went from angels to demons, to aliens, to leprechauns, you name it, and it's all part of the human experience. And whether you think it's all hallucination or not, it basically tells you what spirituality is. And we are now at a time where science and spirituality has come to the halfway point. I think we should enjoy that now while we have the opportunity and speak up when we see things that are scientific that give us spiritual experiences. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Thank you.
And I also want to give both Lacey and Mike a chance to answer this as well. Lacey, you're like, how do I follow that?
I'm not going to follow that.
But please do. And then we have time for one. I'm going to close it with one more question because we're about concluded with this portion of it, and then we're going to move on to something else.
I just wanted to say the hardest part of my job is actually the best part of my job, and that's sitting down and trying to figure out how to communicate this story to you. And there are several ways to do it. I think Lars touched on it. It's one of those many decisions that we make every day about what soundbite do we use, what words do we use to describe it. It's all a process, and it's a very difficult process. But once you're done, once you've got it out there, and once you listen to what you've done, you go, yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, I think I communicated that. And it's hard to face it, but it's a real joy to look back at it.
And Lacey.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Before I was anchoring with Dan, I was the producer for Steve and Rebecca. So I viewed that as I put all the stories in that they were going to air that morning. And so I viewed it as a puzzle piece. So I was like, is this the right puzzle? Am I finishing this puzzle properly? Are all the pieces fitting together? So that was really difficult. But like Mike said, when you do it right and you do it right, it's a really good feeling. And it's fun to do.
Can I also just quickly say that there are so many people behind the scenes, too, that you don't see. And there are several here tonight. I know Chris McGinnis, I think, is here, our traffic guy. And Jeremy Scott, Rosemary Reynolds, our reporters there. So,
what about Tony King?
And Tony King, the producer
what about
of Lars
Tony
Larson
King
Show.
right there in the block?
And these are people that you
Wes
guys...
Scottco, Brian Trotter. Hey, there you are.
Just give a big round of applause, too, because these guys, too...
James Evan Pilato, is he here, too? There's the guy. He's my man, James Evan Pilato, yeah.
I mean, it really is a team effort. And as you know, too, working in television, you get the glory of people seeing you, but you realize there are so many people behind the scenes and technicians, too, that it really... I mean, every person counts. So thank you to everybody.